Here we go. I'm woefully unprepared and we're recording.
All right, sounds good. So, hey, buddy, how you doing?
I am in an incredible pain.
Incredible pain.
Incredible pain. I haven't been doing exercises all week because I've
Okay.
been busy
Yeah.
things. And so last night I had some free time. And
You-
so I started doing some exercises and now
So
I
you
hurt
overdid it.
everywhere. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
terrible.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I hope you get feeling better. Maybe just do a little bit every day, as opposed to, maybe when we record, you can do like a hovering,
A little hovering hand thing.
Yeah. Yeah, or we can next recording we'll do burpees the entire time.
Oh gosh, we're gonna need some lapel mics.
I don't think you'd be able to hear me over the yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that would work, man. But did you hear the good news? Colorado comes
Jesus
through.
Christ is Lord.
Well,
I have heard that good news.
Well, that's good news too. But actually, so now that you threw that one in there, I feel really, really messed up for my good news, which is Colorado has decriminalized mushrooms.
Really?
Psychedelic mushrooms are now decriminalized in the state of Colorado.
Now, is this like marijuana being decriminalized or?
Well, marijuana is legalized in Colorado, but decriminalized meaning that if you get caught with them, you're not going to go to jail. So,
Well, meaning like it's still. I was meaning more along the lines of the feds would still throw you in the clink.
oh, I'm assuming so.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be caught like 2 mile or a mile over the Colorado-Wyoming line, or you're gonna probably go to the pokey, which is not really a place any of us want to be. But again, let me say this, especially if Tim Miller's out there watching. I'm not advocating for drug use. I am only advocating that we have come to a place in our country where we do not recognize people's rights to make decisions on what they do and do not do with their own body. My concern is that when we get to a place that the government decides for people what they can and cannot put into their own bodies, we are going down a very dangerous road. My issue with most Republicans is this: we're okay with the government overstepping their bounds just so long as they are enforcing rules that we like. And my job as a conservative is to be willing to die for your right to do something that I think is egregious or I think is wrong. So, for example, we talk about the this week. Did you hear about Georgia passing that law?
I mean the one you just told me about a few minutes ago, or something else?
I'm talking about the one that we talked about like earlier in the week. We discussed that Georgia passed a heartbeat law. So
I don't know
essentially,
if I mean, I heard about it just a couple minutes ago from you.
okay, so Georgia passed a heartbeat law. A heartbeat law stating that when there is a heartbeat detected, that that abortions are not to be conducted.
Oh,
And
fantastic!
well, it's raising
Almost
quite a
makes
stink.
me want to move to Georgia.
Are you planning to have an abortion sometime soon?
No,
So how does that?
because I want to support a state that does that kind of stuff.
Well, they have their own warts.
Like, I know Miller's been trying for several years now.
And shout out for Tim Miller for trying to do that. I mean, speaking up, but I mean it's tough, right? I mean, because Soter, the issue is this: if you truly have convinced yourself that it is not a baby and it is a parasite and it's no different than a hookworm or a tapeworm, and that a woman has a right to remove a hookworm or tapeworm from her body, I could see how you would come to the conclusion that the woman should have a right to do that, right? If somebody said, "Hey, Soter, you've got a mole growing on you,"
what really? Where?
and we're not going to allow you to remove it, you'd have an issue with that, right? But
Yeah.
the question I have is, do you believe that these people genuinely believe that a baby is not really a baby? I mean, because your wife had some babies, right?
Yeah, she's had a few.
She's had a few. My wife has had a few. From the day that we found out, what did we tell everybody?
We have a cancer growing in my wife's stomach.
My wife has a parasite in her belly. Yeah. No, I told everybody we're having a baby. We're gonna have a baby. I mean, at what point in our culture do we consider any other time that a baby is not a baby? That it's just an organism growing in the belly, a parasite.
I believe it's when it's unwanted.
Well, sure, but that seems to be rather inconsistent, right?
I would say so.
So, so we've got that. So kudos to you, Georgia, because I believe it should definitely go to the states, and the states do. But then you got Alabama.
Imagine the irony right now. One of the states of the Confederacy that used to say that a certain people wasn't people is now saying cancer's people.
Yeah, I mean, at one time they said
that's some really weird Ku Klux Klan right there.
That's called progress, my friend. That's called progress. So that's interesting. Leave it to Soter to give us some interesting insight. So from a state who brought us, you're only a percentage of a human being.
Well, that's an interesting topic. We should get into that sometime. But yeah,
I'm afraid to even get into that conversation with you because
the South actually wanted blacks to be counted as a whole person, and the North didn't. The reason was because otherwise there'd be this massive block of people who would be counted for representation in the House. And so the South would have more representatives than free folk, right?
Okay.
So, and the North didn't want that. So the compromise was that it was only a fraction. It would only count as a fraction of a person.
Interesting.
So
we should discuss that.
Yeah, we should
another time.
But yeah, something to keep in mind when people go, well, I only counted them as part of a person. Like,
that wasn't the South, huh?
It wasn't the South. The North wanted that because they didn't want the South to have as much power.
We'll have to talk about.
You should thank those busybodies in the North for not wanting to count you as a person.
Next topic. Right. So anyway, so Alabama today, what is it? It is Friday the 10th, right?
I'm very unsure of the day.
So date. Friday, May the 10th.
Yep.
They came out and they said that they wanted to punish by up to 99 years in prison. That they wanted to punish anyone who had an abortion. So anyone who had an abortion was punishable by up to 99 years in prison.
Now, is that just the mother or the doctors too?
That's the person receiving the abortion.
Whoa.
Right? Which I thought they would penalize the doctor, but they're penalizing the mother for.
That's interesting.
Which technically, I guess she's not a mother; she's a host. So
yeah.
So she's not a mother; she's a host, according to the argument. So, but with that being said, they are. It caused quite an uproar, as you can imagine, in the Senate. So we go from last week, this guy getting up and saying that they needed to legalize abortions at any time, even post-birth abortions, because either we're going to kill them now or we're going to kill them later. We talked about that on our live stream. To now, the other side of that argument is if you get an abortion, we're going to put you in jail for just under 100 years. And then we have an entirely different situation with both of these bills. So from what I'm being told, though, that they're not really expecting that the bills will go very far.
I'm not familiar with either state's legislative branch.
Well, what they're saying is that they want the bills to go to the Supreme Court for the purpose of arguing them and possibly overturning Roe versus Wade. So this is kind of a long game, as you would say, because that heartbeat bill is going to it's going to court. I mean, there's just no way around.
I want to say Iowa passed one rather recently.
Did they?
Like not recently, like in the last couple months, but in the last few years.
Sure. Sure.
But I haven't heard anything about that going through the court system.
Sure. Well, I mean but this whole idea of government meddling in people's day to day and meddling in people's rights and parents' rights
To
is
be clear,
just
we're talking about the baby's rights, not the
well,
mother's.
well, they're not a parent; they're a host, right? I
Oh,
mean, you have to have a baby in order to be a parent, right? Or a kid, which is not a kid; it's a host. So, but did you hear about the Florida deal with the parents? I texted you the
yeah, you
information.
texted me the link this morning, but I have not read it.
Hey, get on it,
I haven't
bud.
been able to use the porcelain throne this morning, so I
Okay,
haven't
we
had
don't
time
need
to read a lot
yeah,
of
thank
things.
too much information. Thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
that. Yeah, wow. Wow. So with that being said, so these parents in Florida, they have a 3-year-old son who has leukemia. He was going through the chemo treatments, from what I gather, and obviously it was chemo is rough. I mean, it's really rough on anyone, and my heart goes out to any parent having to deal with that. It's got to be tough. I'd rather deal with something like that myself 10 times over than to watch my child go through something like that. But they decided to leave Florida and pursue holistic treatments along with cannabis and some other treatments, some more naturopathic treatments. They actually followed them to Kentucky, where they went, and they essentially confiscated their child. The CPS took their child and is forcing the parents to give their child chemo. Now it's interesting because I read this on Fox News, and I'm reading the comments on Fox News, right? And Fox is a little more right leaning. I was expecting to hear more people complaining about parents' rights being violated, and their being violated. Force their child to have treatments that they disagree with, but absolutely au contraire. So our fellow friends on the right are actually applauding the government for stepping in, and
I want out of this party.
And
this party is frustrating me to no end right now.
It's this is the thing, man. At what point did we fall off the wagon? At what point did being a conservative mean that we supported government overreach?
Well, looking back in history for quite a while,
it's absolutely insane.
Kind of makes me wonder what I overlooked in my youth.
Well, it's insane to me. I mean, I'm just waiting for somebody to come out and just speak the truth and say, you know what, I'm against big government, regardless of their function and regardless of what they are pushing. I'm not going to tolerate it. And the idea that we're going to tolerate it, because when these parents have lost their child, they had their child taken away from them because they chose, not that they weren't getting treatment, not that they chose to take them home and just let them die. That's not what they decided to do. What they decided to do was take their child from one state that did not recognize these homeopathic treatments to another state that would allow them to take treatments that were not going. Chemo's rough, man. Chemo's really, really rough. I mean, you're killing off cells, and you hope and pray that it works. You're
literally killing yourself, hoping you outlast the cancer.
You're bringing your system down so far, hoping that it rebounds, trusting the body to be resilient. And in many cases, it works. In many cases, it doesn't. But I've known a lot of people that have gone the homeopathic route and have had great success with that as well. So I'm for parents having the right to treat their child, and I'm not for the government having the right to go in and take children away from parents because they chose to take a treatment option that the government didn't approve of. Where does that end? Where does it end? When the government decides for you which treatments you can and cannot get, when the government decides to you where you can and cannot go for treatment, when the government what you can do for your kids and put in your body, what's next? I can tell you right now, the next step is vaccinations. That's the next step. There are already states that are stating that if you don't vaccinate your child can be taken away. That's the next fight. I hope that you guys will join with me to fight for rights, for our rights as people, to stand up against any government that seeks to force us to do things that are against our will. Let's end big government. Let's get back to a government that serves its people.
Government for ants.
Have a great day.